Good morning, everybody. My name is Marisa Ayon-Gordon, and I'm here talking to you a little bit about Alumni Volunteering 101, the baseline for Region D. We have several people with us on our webinar this morning. We'll have some audience participation, so I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say, and then any other questions we may have or things that we can do to help grow our section. So we'll go ahead and get started. So why do you volunteer? I'd like some audience participation. You don't have to look at the screen necessarily, but what is it that you do that makes you want to volunteer? So your desire to help students, anybody that has any particular reason why they're interested in volunteering with APO?
Just looking to get back involved, starting to give back to the students again now that alumni and kind of settled in. So just starting to get back on the ball.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes it's just getting back on the horse and being involved. It's an interest in helping students' future and the fraternity to grow. Strong beliefs in our leadership, service, and fellowship, and just different opportunities. Meeting different people. I've met people in all sorts of different careers and walks of life. Anybody else have anything else that they want to add as to why they volunteer or would want to volunteer?
To give back to the organization that I gained from.
Great. That's absolutely true. Give back what we've been given and give opportunities to someone else as well. And that's just the baseline. So we'll volunteer and find out. So we talked about why you volunteer. What's helpful about volunteering and what do we get out of it? It's an exciting role. We get to meet a lot of people that we've never met before, people from around the country. It's a whole different aspect being an alumni versus a student. Students, you're bound by school, you're bound by certain rules and requirements, but alumni volunteers a little bit more free. You get to, obviously, we all know that we have careers and lives. Some of us have children, some of us have pets. And so it's nice to see people in different stages of their life continuing to give back to the fraternity. Gives you real world development. Nothing like, I'm sure y'all have heard the saying, you don't learn something until you have to teach it. And so that's a way for us to give back, learn by giving. And we can encourage the students to join when we see them, if they have questions, or other students that have shown interest. You might know some people that are going to college or are in college and would like a way to volunteer or hone their leadership skills. It's a way for us to continue that service and guide future generations as well. One of the benefits of being an alumni volunteer that we don't necessarily have as students is that we're actually out in the world making some money, hopefully, and that's another way we can contribute back to the fraternity to give an opportunity to students as well. And we'll get to that, those opportunities a little bit later on in the slide. All right, what can you do as a volunteer? Ensure that active members have a positive experience. It's nothing like walking away from an event or from an organization saying, man, they didn't really have the gusto or the excitement to be part of it. You're obviously here because you had a good experience with APO and you want to help promote that as well and give somebody else that same experience of growing and learning as a leader. Be a good example, show what you can do after college, because I know a lot of us had questions about where do I go? What am I going to do with my career? How do I fill my time? But this is a way that it's not only volunteering, but it's expanding your network of colleagues as well. And it allows us to learn about ourselves as well and learn how, as I said earlier, the best way to know that you know something is to teach it. And one of the ways is to allow students to reach those answers that we've had to reach ourselves and lead from behind. We may know the answer, but instead of jumping up and saying, maybe we need to talk to this person or this is how we do it, allow them the opportunity to use critical thinking to get there, and you're the guide leading from behind. So one of the things that people have a lot of questions about is, am I a volunteer or am I an advisor? Am I an advisor? Am I a volunteer? What's the difference? What can I do? What can I not do? And volunteers can be advisors and advisors can be volunteers, or they can be separate. Volunteer with APO, you can do it for as long as you want, for as short as you want, maybe for a semester. You can do it for a decade. I know there are many of us in the region that have committed a lifetime to APO, and we hope to continue doing so. With advisors, it depends on how long you are associated with the chapter. And that can be, again, depending if you're a faculty advisor or a community advisor, but that's going to be chapter specific. Volunteers, you don't always have to be an alumni of that university. You can expand if you've moved. You can be a volunteer to multiple chapters, so you're not bound to one particular chapter or university, whereas an advisor specifically helps one chapter at a university or college from the community, but it's location specific. Volunteers, some volunteers don't work directly with the students, especially as you go higher up in the hierarchy, but they do impact the students, and some of them work directly with the students, whereas advisors are usually there to directly work with students, whether it be from the university or the school or from the community. Volunteers are, while we assist and support the students, our main focus is also in the best interest of the fraternity. We promote leadership, friendship, and service. We're there to promote programs to help disseminate information, whereas advisors, their best interest is the chapter itself. So what are they going to do specifically on campus to promote the chapter? What are they going to do specifically to follow school policies? And that leads into the next thing, is that their main focus is also to guide in the local community according to school policies, according to guidelines, make sure that we're not violating anything or stepping out of line or causing the chapter to go in the red or to have any probation issues. Advisors serve at one level, meaning, again, like I said, the chapter or the university at the community level, whereas volunteers can move up and down, and they can volunteer at different levels and at different capacities. So as we were talking about, one of the benefits of being an alumni volunteer is that hopefully we're now making real world money and not having to worry as much about school and school expenses, books, room and board, very expensive. But here are some opportunities that we have. One of them is called the Torchbearer, and that's a continued reoccurring donation of at least $75, but there are several different levels. And I have a link on one of the next slides where you can find out all the information. You can find out who the donors are and what levels they are. What it does is a continued investment in the programs, the long-term goals, but also to promote things like special programs that we have, National Service Week, Spring Youth Service Day, and trying to promote APO leads. Has anybody been a part of the 1925 Club? I don't see anybody. Well, that's the 1925 Club is the pledge from students to pay $19.25 to help the programs, but this is on the alumni side, which is Torchbearer. You also can get a really cool little pin to show that status and that contribution. One of the other programs we have is the Society of Life member. Anybody here a Society of Life member?
I am.
I am. Tanya is.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for your one-time enrollment fee, which actually goes a long way to helping the fraternity grow. You do also get a really cool pin for this one, but it helps ensure the long-term growth as well. And this, unlike the Torchbearer, it is, like I said, a one-time fee depending on when you graduate. So again, a little bit more about time and money. Sometimes if we don't have the time to participate physically, our donations really help go a long way. I do have as you can see above, I have the website address that you can go. You can see who's donated, what they've donated. You have your Blue and Gold Society members, continuing source of income, enable fraternity to achieve its strategic goals. There are, again, just different programs that help on the monetary side, because as we know, in the real world, things don't always go or move forward without a little bit of money to help grease the wheel, so to speak. And there are two types of donations that we can give: outright gifts, which are like the torchbearer, the Society of Life membership. They're outright gifts during our time. You can also make an outright gift that's outside of those programs, or you can get a deferred gift upon your passing, or an estate, or a trust. And again, you can find out who some of those people are at that on the website link. So Friends of APO, this quote was taken directly from the website, showing our thanks for how it's helped us grow our membership and our programs. And some people that are part of different companies can actually reach out, and it helps both you, it helps the fraternity, it helps the company. If they will match your donation dollar for dollar, you do get the recognition for it, but it does help all around for that. So that might be something to inquire with your company as another way to give and to promote. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. We've talked about how you can financially help. Now we've graduated from school, or we've been volunteering for a while, but one of the things that we have an issue with is burnout. Does anybody feel burned out after school, after they've graduated? Because I know I did. I wanted to take a break, but I didn't. I went on to graduate school. And so one of the things that we do, we kind of look introspectively, what is it that we need from volunteering? Do we need a positive attitude? Do we need people to be around us that can hype us up? Are we the hype people? Just being in a room full of like-minded people really helps to promote the things that we want to do to help the students. Do we want that development and growth? Volunteering is a perfect opportunity to develop and grow as a leader. You see how to motivate other volunteers, how to motivate students. You can still participate in the leadership development and growth. You can teach development and growth if it's something that you get from your company or from work in your real world experience. But it's a continued opportunity to strive for more. If you're like me, having recognition is helpful because it lets you know, it gives you feedback that you're doing well, that what you're giving is being received. And so with recognition, alumni continue to also be available to get awards. There's several different ones. I think we'll try and have a later webinar explaining that, because there's a lot more than just the chapter DSK and the section DSK and the region DSK. There's quite a few more as far as like advisors, and I think we'll go into a little bit more depth in another webinar. But there's lots of ways to be recognized for the volunteer and the work that you do, because it really does mean a lot. And one of the primary reasons I know that helps people stay motivated is that connection. I think, like I said, a lot of us alumni are looking for other alumni that have similar interests, but going to conventions and conferences, even as alumni, really helps spark that. And when students see us have a spark of excitement to see other people that we've met or to meet new brothers, it shows them that their continued fire for APO will go on past just graduating from college. And so I know that a lot of alumni look forward to those conferences and convention because they get the opportunity to see brothers that they haven't seen in a long time. And it's like they say, when you see an old friend, it's like time never passed. So those are ways so you can look introspectively. What is it that you need in order to keep yourself motivated? And maybe you communicate that with a section chair or region chair, and they can help find that opportunity for you. So you know what you need. What is it that you can do to stay motivated? Manage your roles and expectations. Are you taking on too much? A lot of times you'll get burned out if you take on too many projects. Maybe you thought it was too much of a time commitment. And that's, again, one of the beauties of being an alumni volunteer, is that your time is more flexible and you can work with, so to speak, the staff or people of authority to help manage that. So it's the burden's not all on you. Many hands help lift the load. And we all know that life happens. We all have, we have families, we have parents, we have children, we have, like I said, pets that need our attention as well. Work gets really busy, and it's understandable that we need to manage our expectations. If maybe this semester we need to step back, that's okay. And we encourage a lot of people and volunteers when they enter into something that's stressful in life, or, you want to focus on your career, or, if you had a baby like I did, you may want to take a step back, and that's okay. The door is always open to come in, or even just show up to a conference or jump in on for the call to say hello. But it's okay to step back and come back. And we encourage it for the mental health of our volunteers, because like I said, having a good, solid, positive volunteer helps encourage the students to stay positive as well. Another way is staying in touch, just having phone calls, like I said, jumping in on a conference call if you can, just to say hi, even if you're busy or you stepped away. If somebody's traveling to your city for work, I know sometimes our friend James has come to San Antonio where I am for business, and he'll call us up, we'll go get dinner. And it's just a nice way to stay in touch. And again, not to say relive those memories, but also make new memories that we can talk about and think about as we go forward until the next time we see each other. Flexibility and adaptation, that kind of goes back to managing your role and expectations. Knowing what your schedule is, you're the best person to know that, and adapt to how things change. So as I've been volunteering for about 10 plus years, things have changed a lot. And we've always constantly having to adapt. It's no more, what it's about me, it's about the fraternity and being able to help the students on what they needed, especially as we saw with COVID. COVID happened, and a lot of things have changed because of that, and getting students remotivated and being flexible to work with them and how they interpret rules and how they are having to relearn things that maybe were second nature when we were in college, but being able to work together and mesh it together is a way to stay motivated, to make sure to know that it's not all on you. And self-awareness, again, if you know things are going to be tough, if you know if you have strengths and you want to help provide that, if you have a special skill set, those are ways that you can share that. Nothing gets somebody more excited and more motivated than to share something that they're passionate about. And as a volunteer, you're open to sharing a lot of things in different capacities. So we'll go on to the next. So we're going to talk a little bit about Alpha Phi Omega, the hierarchy. So this pyramid that I have here, move my head out of the way, is kind of what the idea of our national hierarchy is. Your national board is going to oversee everything. They're the ones that are working on the legislation. And we'll talk about what that level is a little bit later. Operations board handles the programs. This is just kind of a rough overview. And we'll get into a little bit more detail of the different levels. But this is kind of the idea that most people have of what our hierarchy is. National board is the be all end all, and it just kind of trickles down. But that's not quite exactly true, because as you'll see on this next slide, we're actually all here to support the students, no matter what level you're at. And it's really through the students that we build our programs. And their diversity and what they bring to the table, the problems and the issues and the things that they want to promote are what gives our fraternity strength. Without them, then we're not really a fraternity, we're just an organization. And so we're here to benefit the students, no matter what level. And so I just wanted to make that clear, so that you don't feel restricted to just being a chapter volunteer, or you have to be something different, and the national board just serves one particular goal. It's really what it is to promote the students and support them. Our goal overall should be to promote critical thinking in the students, good decision making, and make strong leaders. So now we're going to get into the levels. And I don't know if any of y'all remember Seinfeld, but there was an episode where Kramer talks about the different levels in his apartment and how it's going to make everything work better. So it's supposed to be a GIF. It's not quite, but technical glitch. So we're going to talk a little bit about the levels that you can volunteer at. And remember that it's open to everybody that can volunteer. Sometimes you have to have a little experience to get there, but it's open to you as well. So on the base level, once you've graduated, you can volunteer with the chapters. What you can do, you can donate. Sometimes they specifically need donations or they're asking for collections on projects that they may have. You can give directly to them. You can give through the fraternity as well. One of the greatest things you can do is even just, if you're invited, show up to their banquets, go to a ceremony, go to a conference. It shows that you're still interested and that what they do is not just in a bubble, but it goes beyond them. And so the next we have is a chapter liaison, but I have a pin in that because we're going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide, since it has a little bit more to do with the section. Sometimes they need more hands at a service project. If it's a smaller chapter, I came from a small chapter, and sometimes finding people to volunteer because there were finals happening or major school events happening, it was harder to service another project or to assist somebody. Volunteers can come in as alumni as well. If you've had an experience going to a conference, share that experience. A lot of these students have not been to a conference or convention, especially with COVID. A lot of them, it's brand new, and having that information and your experience really helps to solidify the excitement and the spark that APO has and continues to have. And the other one I was talking about, if you have a special skill, maybe not Liam Neeson style, but if you have a special skill or a hobby that you really like, offer to present that at a meeting. It doesn't have to necessarily be leadership based or service based. A lot of times just learning about different things really excites the chapters and brings them together, shows what you can do. Again, sharing your passions and your interests. For example, in one of the conferences we had a brother that had that does karate. She came into the self-defense class, and even though it didn't necessarily have something specific to do with service, we showed it as a service to yourself and to the community. You were knowledgeable about being safe, but also it was really fun because it was very interactive. And so she had the opportunity to share something she was very passionate about with the students, and they really enjoyed it. Everybody learned a lot. So remember that you're even at the small base level with small amount of time, doing a presentation really helps a lot of people and gets people excited about it. We're going to move up a little bit to the section. So as we move up, the volunteer net widens. The section chair has obligations to the students as well. And they report to the region chair. They work in tandem with them to help promote the students on a little bit more on a micro level and in the location that they're at. They provide guidance for a conference as well. They are able to have a section staff, so you can volunteer to be on the section staff. Again, if something that you're interested in. If you have a good skill at being web design, offer to be the webmaster. You can help with conference chair, service chair, and membership chair, but the makeup of the staff is based on what the section chair and what the section looks like, and what the section chair wants it to look like and help with, because each section is a little different, and they're the ones that are closest and are basically the first contact that you have outside of your chapter with the fraternity. And so again, being positive, being interactive really helps show that we can do more than just in our chapter. So I did want to talk a little bit about a chapter liaison, and what that does is they are chapter specific, but they do still report directly to the section chair. Again, ultimately it's at the best interest of the students, but they serve kind of at what the section chair is asking them to do. If it's to promote certain programs, if it's to relay information from the national board, any changes, and any reports, any issues that they may have, they're the direct contact as well. But these are some of the next level that you can participate at in your area, that you don't have to go too far. And it's, again, aside from section chair, the amount of money that you have to put into it is really up to you, if it's gas or going to a conference or anything. And each time we're trying to mentor the students to be, to also be volunteers after graduation, and to be strong leaders. So you have a little bit more experience. You've been around, you've served around, and you're finding out. So we'll move up. You go on to be a region chair. Region chairs are on the operations council, which we'll hit on again a little bit later. And they structure the region staff similar to how it is on this slide here. Let me move around on this slide. But they're not limited to that. Again, it depends on what the region looks like and where we need to go with the region. So my position here is the internal volunteer development. That's what you're sitting in here with. It's to find out what you can do, or what we can do to be good volunteers, or what we need to do in order to promote that in our section. I'm sorry, our region. And we work with the section staff to help promote them, whatever they might need, because we're also directly in contact with the national board. But we're here to help also pull people as needed for any development or questions about service or membership as well. But if you have a certain passion for something, maybe you're really good at social media. I'm not. I have it, but I'm not great at it. You're more than welcome to use your special skills and your passions and interests to, one, develop them, but also provide that support. So now we talk about the national level. And what's unique about the national level is that, as you can see, if you didn't already know, the majority of our board of directors are elected. There's only a few that are not, meaning mostly the past president, which was previously elected at a previous time, but now it's on this board as that capacity. Same thing with the past president. Legal counsel, very helpful to have. I'm an attorney myself, so it helps a lot to prevent a lot of problems. And then our national executive director, who is Bob London, and he's been on the board for quite a while. The other part of that is the National Operations Council. As I talked about, we have our Programs Council, which are these programs here, and these are appointed by the National Board of Directors. So that's a little bit different, but they help serve in these capacities. And each of them, the great thing is that even as a volunteer, you have access to talk to them if you have questions outside of APO or because of APO or something that you're interested in. If you're interested in being an extension chair or what they do, feel free to give them a call. They're happy to talk to you. They're just volunteers like we are too. And then we have your section chair, region chairs here, and they are elected. So they serve at the support of the students, but also report to the board of directors and are part of the operations council. So the great thing is that no matter where you are or who you are, you have the opportunity to be part of these committees, long range planning, and programs. You can volunteer at the national convention. So it's open. It's not restrictive to, well, I've only been a volunteer for a year or 2 years. I don't have the experience. They won't accept me. It's very accepting, and you have those opportunities to you. And it's great if it's there. I highly suggest taking it. Volunteering at the national convention at any level or any time is a wonderful experience. You get to meet a lot of new people as well that are also learning and growing. And that's kind of what the beauty of this as volunteers is. We're all learning and growing as all together. All right. So here are some frequently asked questions that come up. I've been asked these questions myself. Number one, what is how long is the commitment? I mean, I'm working, I have a family. What do I do? How long can I don't know if I have the time for it. It's the time that you make for it, essentially. If you're in a staff position, it depends, or an elected officer, it's under that term. So 1 year for section staff, 2 years for region chair, and then for convention, 2 years for national board. So it just depends on that. And if you're a staff member and that term ends, if there's a new staff chair, section chair, you can offer your services to them or continue to volunteer on the chapter level, and they will reach out to you as well. But we always have to keep that communication going, because when chairs change, sometimes we don't have the same communication. So feel free to reach out to the new chair or committee member. So to answer the long and the short of it is, how long is the commitment? That's the structure of it, but really it depends on what you have to offer and what you want to offer. If you want to start out small, that's fine. We talked about some of those opportunities that are a little bit smaller, or that you can do in your own time, locally, and some of that can be on the grander scale. The next question, am I still inactive? How active do I need to be? And at no time are you inactive any longer unless you go back to school and re-enroll. But otherwise, you're an alumni volunteer, and you are there as a support and a resource to the students. You can attend the functions, you can participate, but you do not run the events. You don't have a vote. You're there to volunteer. You're kind of in the background, again, to support. And on the other way of looking at how active do you want to be as far as participating, that's up to you. If you have time or you have a break, feel free to volunteer as much as you want. If you only maybe have once a week, once a month, once a quarter, sometimes that's all it takes. And how much does it cost? Besides your time, maybe if you need to travel, as a alumni volunteer, it really doesn't cost you anything unless you want to volunteer that money, or again, travel expenses. The only time that it costs something, it's not necessarily a requirement, but kind of a baseline, is if you're a section chair, it costs you maybe in the neighborhood of about $5,000 for travel and volunteering, because again, it's helping put on the convention, the conference, traveling and seeing your chapters and the meetings that you might hold. It's roughly about $10,000 if you're a region chair, again, for travel and conferences. And I think we had talked about maybe for national boards about somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000. But again, that's just an overall view. Could be less, could be more, but it's just the idea of volunteering your time and money because you're committed to that. So, and if you have more questions about the monetary part of being a chair, feel free to reach out to me or Candace, and we would be happy to explain and talk about what that looks like in reality. Oh no, there's more questions. That's fine. How much time does it involve? Again, it's just limited to what you can provide. Work, school, social life is up to you. We want to have happy, healthy, balanced volunteers. We don't want you to be overly stressed. If you're stressing out about volunteering, talk to your chair, and they'll hopefully calm you down, help provide some assistance that will get you from that. It's volunteering. It's not your job. It's not something that you need to be stressing out about. And like I said, it's based on what you can provide and what you want to provide. What happens if I become a staff and I realize I don't have enough time? Again, talk to your region chair, your section chair, and they'll help try and provide you with somebody, or at least transition. If you know, okay, well, I'm going to be moving, but I want to continue with APO, you can continue volunteering even if you're not in the section or the region. We have a couple of volunteers that are no longer in our section, but they like the company, they like what we do, and they're pretty familiar with it. So they're able to still come and volunteer with us, or we can help guide you to get in contact with somebody else in your area. If you're holding a staff position, help you to, if you want to continue until the end of the term, or if you want to transition out. That way we have make it kind of smooth for everybody. But communication is key. What authority do I have? What can I tell them to do? What can I not tell them to do? And the reality is, it depends on what the chair gives you and what the chapter allows you to do. You technically, as a volunteer, don't have authority to tell them yes, no, maybe, absolutely not, unless it violates like the laws of your state or your area. Obviously, that's just being the adult in the room, and somebody calling out safety issues. But you don't have authority to tell them what service projects they can and cannot do within reason, and you don't have voting ability, but you are there to help guide. And with that authority comes from your chair, whether it's the section or the region staff, the region chair, they will help guide you on that as well. All right, and what else do we need to know? Risk management, that's always key. And like I said, I'm an attorney, so I'm always looking at what are the possibilities of things that can go wrong? What are the best case scenario, worst case scenario? So as a volunteer, we want you to familiarize yourself with this, not only for yourself, but also as being a guide to the students. I do have the website there, and there is a risk management tutorial that you do need to go through and complete per national office. That way that you're up to speed on it and not putting anybody or yourself at risk, and upholding the policies that we have, and also helping that our insurance doesn't go up or anything. That does help as well. What do you need to know? A helpful guide to students for your staff might be able to use. Familiarize yourself with the programs at each level. If you're in the section programs or the section staff or volunteering at that level, know what kind of programs we have, or maybe something that they do normally, like in Section D2, we'll have something that's called Merit Badge University through a couple of the universities that they work with Boy Scouts. That's one of the programs that we promote or that we ask for volunteers. So that's one of the things you can also help with students and at different levels, as well as any leadership programs like LEADS to help promote with those as well. I'm just reiterating this. I know we talked about it a couple of times, but your role as a staff is to let the students find the answer. Your time to learn and grow and to find that answer has passed. And as sad as that is, it's your opportunity now to guide someone to find that as well. And that's the signs of a good leader, to know when to step back and allow somebody else to take that forefront. So again, as an alumni volunteer, you're continuing to grow as a leader and develop those skills, even just by being there and allowing them to reach those answers. And if you don't know, that's okay not to know the question or know the answer. That's why we are a group or a collaborative effort. There are many times in my volunteering and even in my professional life, I say, you know what, I really don't know, or I'd rather not tell you the wrong thing. Let me find out or get somebody that can give you the better answer, and I'll get back to you. And that's more satisfying, and that's more prudent to go with that route than to try and guess and tell them the wrong thing. So be familiar with the stages of development if you're helping with the chapter, which just kind of reiteration, the storming, forming, norming, performing. I know as we go on, blah, 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 blah. But just as an aside, to be familiar with that so that you can recognize it in your chapters that you help with, or even student projects. It happens at the section, the region level. We're always forming and norming and performing and going back and storming onto projects and things. This was even this webinar was going through those stages of storming, what we could do, how do we form it, how do we do it, and here we are performing. So just be familiarized with those, and if you need a refresher, I'm sure we can go through that as well on a separate webinar just for volunteers that have been stepped away for a little while. And what is something that we kind of reiterate is the do's and don'ts on the staff creed. You know, don't promote illegal activity, don't promote hazing, stick with the policies of the university if they're working with a chapter. One of the things that I know that it's very easy to fall into is that in my chapter we did this, or in my time we participated with that, and that's part of that flexibility and adaptation. Is things are changing. We used to be, for example, we used to be able to do where you could search for, what is it? You used to be able to do, oh my goodness. Well, you used to be able to go and off campus and look for different things and send pledges or non-actives to new members to go find things to, as far as whether they're part of the university or APO, and now you can no longer do that. One, for safety reasons, but for any other issues that could happen. So just be aware of that. I know it's very easy to fall into that in my chapter, in my time. But if you find yourself, step back, allow them to grow on that and educate you on what's going on in their time. And where do you fit in? So again, you look at what you can do and what you feel comfortable doing. You don't have to jump in and be the national president if you're not welcome, if you're not wanting to. But speak with other alumni, speak with your section chair, region chair, and they will help guide you. If you want to start at the chapter liaison level, that's a good place to start. If you're brand new to volunteering, it's something that you're probably familiar with. You can still attend meetings when you can. And again, talk with your section or region chair to help see what exactly programs that they're doing. And attending training. This is one of your first steps, is familiarizing yourself or reacquainting yourself with what it is to volunteer and how to volunteer and your resources. All right, I think this next slide is for audience participation. For if you're already volunteering with APO or have volunteered with APO, what do you do? How do you do what you do? What is an experience that you can share with the group about volunteering? And I'll open the floor to anybody. Candace.
I'll go first. It's fine. I tend to ask a lot of questions. As region chair, I'm not hands-on with students as much as I used to be when I was a section chair. So now I ask a lot of questions of volunteers, of students, and just ask, how can I help? And that really guides what I do every day.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's a perfect thing to do. You have a position, and how do you do what you do? That's what you do. You ask questions. How do you do volunteering, or how do you do what you do? I try to make time in my busy schedule to dedicate to APO, dedicating time, even if it's making a presentation or speaking with students. I've at different levels, or even participating in a conference call. Part of that is just making the time and being present to be a volunteer. So that's my experience. Does anybody else want to share anything else? No? All right, that's okay. But it's just an idea for you to sit and think about how do you do what you do, both in your professional, personal, and in your life as a volunteer with APO. So the last thing is I'm going to open it up to any questions that you might have, or comments, concerns. If you have any, feel free to give me a call or send me an email at, I guess I can put it in the chat, or reach out to Candace, who's our region chair and who's helping facilitate all of this. But before we get to questions, I just want to tell you all, thank you very much for coming to this webinar and spending the Saturday morning with me, so we can talk a little bit about volunteering and being excited to be part of APO. Can I send a copy of the presentation via email to all? Yes. If not today, I'll send it tomorrow, just so that I can make sure that I have all of y'all's email and everything. I think Candace might have those, but I'll make sure I'll get with her on that. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and again, thank you again for coming and participating. And I look forward to seeing y'all volunteering out there.